Have you ever felt a strange presence in the room, even when you were alone? Or had a sudden knowing, a flash of insight, that defied logic, yet proved true? What if I told you that these are not mere coincidences or tricks of the mind, but echoes of a forgotten power within you? A power that ancient civilizations revered, mystics guarded in silence, and modern society buried under noise and distraction. This power lies dormant at the center of your forehead, just above the space between your eyebrows, a portal the sages call the third eye. The third eye, or Ajna chakra, has been spoken of in hushed tones across cultures, from the pineal gland revered in Egyptian mystery schools, to the symbol of the all-seeing eye in sacred texts, to the eye of Horus carved on stone tablets thousands of years old. It is not a myth. It is not metaphor, it is real, and it is the seat of your inner vision, higher perception and soul awareness. But here's the forgotten truth. Opening this eye is not about meditating for hours or waiting for lightning to strike. It is about reviving a lost practice, a method so profound, so quietly powerful, it was hidden in plain sight, not because it's dangerous, but because its truth can't be commercialized. This practice predates religions, bypasses dogma, and speaks directly to the divine intelligence within you. And now it's time to remember. In this journey, we will peel back the layers of illusion, decode ancient wisdom, and bring into light the lost ritual that awakens the third eye. This isn't just about spiritual awakening, it's about seeing the world as it truly is and reclaiming the forgotten powers you were born with. Are you ready to see beyond the veil? The hidden gateway. What the third eye really is, they call it the seat of the soul, the eye of God, the inner oracle. But beyond the poetic titles and esoteric symbols lies a real center of power. One that connects the physical and the spiritual, the seen and the unseen. The third eye is more than a chakra. It is a gateway, a bridge between the human and the divine. Biologically, it correlates to the pineal gland, a tiny pinecone-shaped structure nestled deep in the center of your brain. This gland, astonishingly sensitive to light and frequency, is not just another part of your endocrine system. It is your antenna to higher realms. Ancient Egyptians revered it. The Eye of Horus, often misunderstood as mere decoration or myth, is a symbolic representation of this very gland, right down to its anatomical accuracy. In India, yogis placed red tilaks on the forehead not as ornamentation, but as a mark of spiritual focus. And in esoteric Christianity, Christ spoke of the single eye, that when full of light fills the body with illumination. But something happened. As humanity drifted deeper into materialism, rationalism, and sensory overload, the inner vision dulled. The third eye was not destroyed, but put to sleep, numbed by fluoride, calcified by toxins, and suffocated by constant distraction. The world trained you to believe only what your two physical eyes could see, blinding you to the higher truth. Yet the third eye was never meant to be open all the time. It's not a switch you leave on. It is a sacred gate that opens with reverence, intention, and alignment. When opened correctly, it does not bombard you with visions or psychic chaos. Instead, it offers clarity. It unveils the invisible architecture of life, patterns in people, synchronicities in time, and the subtle whispers of intuition that guide you through the fog. It is not about seeing ghosts or floating in other dimensions, although such phenomena may arise. True third eye awakening is about perceiving truth without distortion, cutting through illusion like a sword through mist. But here lies the great paradox: you cannot force it open. You must remember the practice, the forgotten sacred art that aligns body, breath, and spirit into a singular instrument of perception. And this practice, it begins not with the mind, but with the silence beneath the mind. In the next part, we journey into this long-lost method, the forgotten daily ritual hidden in ancient temples, mystery schools, and deep within your own soul. The forgotten practice, a daily ritual hidden in plain sight. In a world obsessed with complexity, the most powerful truths are often the simplest and the easiest to overlook. The ancient sages knew this. That's why the true key to awakening the third eye was never wrapped in grand ceremonies or cloaked in impossible riddles. It was embedded in the everyday, and sealed in a practice so subtle, most people do it without realizing, but without presence, they miss its power entirely. Sai. That practice is stillness, Not just stillness of body, but stillness of attention, breath, and awareness. This forgotten ritual, known to ancient mystics as the inner gazer or sacred watching, is the art of becoming fully conscious within your own presence, directing your awareness gently but deliberately inward. In the temples of Kemet, initiates would sit in total darkness for hours, even days, in silent meditation, their focus trained on the point between the eyebrows. In Hindu traditions, this was called itrataka, a steady gaze, either external on a flame or internal on the third eye. But what unified all these paths was the same core principle. Attention is the activator of consciousness. By placing your awareness, calmly and without effort, on the third eye region, you begin to stimulate this inner gateway, not through force, but through resonance. You awaken it not with struggle, but with sacred remembrance. Try this. Sit in a quiet room. Let your breath slow down like the surface of a still lake. Close your eyes and gently bring your focus to the center of your forehead. Not straining, not imagining, just watching. You may feel warmth, a subtle pulse, or nothing at all at first, but stay there, still, awake, open. This is not visualization. This is not escape. This is pure presence. The very act of witnessing, without reacting, without labeling, begins to dissolve the fog that covers the third eye. Over time, it activates the gland, recalibrates your nervous system, and realigns your perception with higher frequencies. Science is catching up. Studies show that focused attention and mindfulness strengthen neural pathways tied to intuition and interoception, the sense of your internal world. And the pineal gland, it produces dimethyltryptamine, or DMT, the molecule associated with dreams, near-death experiences, and mystical visions. This means you were biologically designed to access altered states of consciousness, not through substances, but through sacred awareness. The ritual takes only minutes a day, but it must be practiced not as a task, but as a sacred offering, a return to the temple within. And in time, this simple daily act becomes a doorway to visions, to clarity, to a reality far beyond the five senses. But the path does not stop here. Because once the gateway opens, what you see must be interpreted. The third eye is not just a lens, it is a language, a way the soul communicates in symbols, intuition, and inner knowing. In the next part, we'll explore what happens when the third eye begins to awaken, the signs, the visions, and the mistakes to avoid as the inner world begins to reveal itself. The signs of awakening, visions, symbols, and the subtle realm. When the third eye begins to stir, the world around you doesn't necessarily change, but the way you perceive it does. The veils thin, what was once ordinary becomes laced with meaning. You begin to notice patterns, feel energies, and receive insights that don't come from logic, but from something deeper. This is the subtle realm, the terrain of the awakened third eye. You may begin to experience vivid dreams that feel more real than waking life, sudden insights or intuitive flashes that seem to come from nowhere, synchronicities, strange coincidences that defy chance, heightened sensitivity to energy, sound. And even people's intentions, a growing awareness of symbolism in your environment, numbers, animals, recurring images that seem to speak to you. But let this be known. These are not tricks of the imagination. They are the soul's way of speaking, and the third eye is its translator. Ancient mystics taught that the language of the third eye is symbolic and non-linear. It bypasses the analytical mind and speaks in archetypes, emotions, and flashes of meaning. This is why the dream world, ruled by the third eye, can be filled with strange imagery that carries powerful messages when decoded properly. However, this awakening is not always smooth. Many people make the mistake of chasing visions, obsessing over psychic abilities, or assuming that every flicker in the dark is a sign from beyond. This path, if ungrounded, can lead to confusion, ego inflation, and spiritual disorientation. The key is discernment. True third eye awakening is not about hallucination or fantasy. It's about clearer seeing, stripping away illusion, not adding more. It's the quiet realization that reality is layered, alive, and responsive to consciousness. You begin to feel truth, not just think it. And you start to recognize when something resonates with your soul, or when it's a projection of fear or desire. You must become a watcher, not only of the outer world, but of your inner landscape. This is where ancient tools come in. Not as crutches, but as mirrors, journaling, dreams. Meditating with crystals like lapis lazuli or amethyst, practicing focused rituals during dawn and dusk, The are-between times are when the spiritual and physical worlds overlap. These were not superstitions, they were ways to tune your perception, like adjusting the frequency on a sacred radio. But as you learn to see more clearly, something even more profound begins to happen. You stop seeing the third eye as something to open and begin to realize it's something to live through. In the next part, we explore this deeper integration, how to align your daily life with the awakened vision and avoid the pitfalls that trap many seekers in illusion.
Beyond the vision, living through the third eye. Once the third eye begins to awaken, a choice emerges, not in words, but in essence. Will you continue to see the world through the fragmented lens of the ego? Or will you begin to live through the eye of the soul? Because make no mistake, the third eye is not just a tool for mystical glimpses. It is a way of being, a way of seeing through illusion, yes, but more importantly, a way of walking through life with presence, insight, and sacred alignment. To live through the third eye is to walk between worlds, to exist fully in the physical while remaining attuned to the spiritual. It means perceiving the invisible threads that connect all things and responding to life from that deeper knowing. You begin to notice when words no longer match energy. You sense when opportunities are aligned and when they are distractions in disguise. You start trusting your intuition not as a hunch, but as a higher compass. But here lies the test. The more you see, the more responsibility you carry. Because vision without grounding can lead to distortion. This is where many seekers lose themselves. Seduced by symbols, addicted to insight, and chasing powers instead of embodying wisdom. The ego loves to hijack the mystical, turning sacred seeing into spiritual performance. That's why the ancient mystery schools never gave the third eye teachings to the unprepared, not because they wanted to keep secrets, but because clarity without humility becomes a weapon. The true initiate was taught not just how to open the eye, but how to purify the self. In Egyptian alchemy, the phrase "know thyself" wasn't a poetic suggestion. It was a warning. Because what you see with the third eye begins within. It magnifies truth. If you're clouded with fear, resentment, or ego, that's what you'll perceive. But if you're anchored in stillness, love, and discernment, then your vision becomes clear, piercing, radiant. To live through the third eye is to walk as a seer in the modern world, not a prophet shouting predictions, but a quiet flame, observing without judgment, choosing with wisdom, acting with grace. You begin to redesign your life. You remove distractions that once kept your spirit dull. You surround yourself with symbols and spaces that amplify awareness, not clutter it. Even your relationships evolve, as you no longer tolerate inauthenticity and attract those who operate from their own deeper truth. And then, something miraculous happens. You stop searching. You stop striving. Because the third eye reveals what the soul always knew. You were never separate from the divine. You only forgot how to see. This is the real gift, not psychic powers, not visions of other realms, but the return to a state of clarity, peace, and presence so profound, the entire world becomes a reflection of your inner light. And yet, there is one final stage in this journey. Not everyone reaches it, but those who do find that the third eye is not the destination, but the doorway. In the final part, we'll step through that doorway together and uncover what awaits on the other side. The eye beyond eyes, reclaiming the divine within. You've awakened the third eye. You've peeled back the layers of illusion, explored the unseen world, and aligned yourself with the wisdom of the ages. But there is one final revelation waiting, one that shifts everything. The third eye is not a portal to a different world. It is a mirror of your own soul. It reveals who you really are, not a separate being struggling in isolation, but a divine, interconnected force moving through time and space. Once you've learned to see beyond the veil, you come to realize you are not looking for something outside of you. You are remembering what's always been within. The third eye is the gateway to the higher self, the eternal part of you that exists beyond the limitations of the body, mind, and ego. It sees from the highest vantage point, where all of life is one unified whole, where every moment is sacred and every choice reverberates through the cosmos. But most importantly, the third eye is the return to wholeness. It is the return to your true essence. As you integrate the power of this vision, you stop chasing external validation. You stop seeking answers from the outside world, because you've realized the ultimate truth you already know. Your soul has always known. And when you live through the third eye, every decision, every relationship, every action is infused with clarity, compassion, and divine wisdom. The world becomes a reflection of your inner state, an unfolding dance between the physical and the spiritual. This, dear seeker, is the final awakening. The realization that the third eye is not just a tool for seeing, it is the key to becoming. Becoming who you were always meant to be. Becoming the embodiment of the divine in the world, living fully awake, fully aware, and fully aligned. So, now the question remains. Will you continue to walk the path? Will you claim the power that lies dormant within you? If you feel the stirrings of truth inside you, the call of the third eye awakening, then now is the time to embrace it fully. If you found value in this journey, don't keep it hidden. Share this wisdom with others, and together we can awaken to the divine truths that have been waiting for us all along. Like, share, and subscribe to. Continue on this sacred journey. Hit the notification bell so you won't miss the next step of this spiritual awakening. And if you feel the call to dive even deeper, leave a comment below and let me know how your third eye is awakening. What truths have you uncovered? Let's walk this path together.